everybody, welcome to the Paper and Ink Boutique. I'm Laureen and I'm going to be showing you a hot foil demo today. It's been a while since I've done this, and so we've been doing lots of demos recently, so we thought a hot foil one would be great. We know people always have lots of questions, and I'm going to walk you through being brand new to hot foiling, do some more advanced techniques as well. I think Julia, others call me the hot foiling queen, but I'm going to show you that everybody can do it, so the secret will be out. So yeah, I think we're just going to tip the camera down and we're going to get started. And please fire away questions. Julie is here to moderate and happy to answer any questions as we go along. Got lots of different products here and different techniques, so we'll get started. But like I said, if anybody has any questions, we'd love to answer them as we go along. So hot foiling basics, what you need is a hot foiling machine. So we use the Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil system. It's really simple to use. There's only one button to push. There are other hot foil systems out there. This is the one that we use and I absolutely love it. And then you also need a die cut machine. And the premise behind hot foiling is that you heat up a metal plate and you use a die cut machine to add pressure to transfer the foil onto whatever substrate you're using. So we've heated up our system here. It's very simple to use. You just plug it in, you turn on the power at the back, and you can see there's a power light, so it'll turn red when it's plugged in, so you know the power's there. And then you're going to wait for the green light to turn on, which is the platform ready button. So because we've had this heated for a while, it's ready to go. It would normally take a few minutes to heat up, but in the interest of time, we had it started before the live happened. And I've actually put my plate on here as it was warming up, so it's getting really nice and hot. And the idea is, like I said, you want to have your plates nice and hot because it's going to transfer the foil and basically melt it into the paper. So you're also going to need a special foil. So this is hot foil. There's lots of different kinds up there. We use the Glimmer the Spellbinders hot foil. And we've got tons and tons of colors. Right now I'm using the polished brass. You can't use other foils that would be used for transferring, but this is a specific hot foil that is required. And the trick here is to always make sure that the pretty side of the foil touches your plate, because it's actually the back side that will transfer to your paper, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but just always remember pretty side touching your plate. So I've gone ahead and I've pre-cut this piece of foil, but I'll show you after we do this sample how I did this piece of foil. And you're going to want to make sure that it's at least the size of your hot foil plate. And if you're new to hot foiling, you don't want to cut it too large. That's going to be excess around here of your plate. Now this is a cover plate, so it's going to cover the entire piece of cardstock if you're making a card. But if you're using a smaller plate, you'd want to make sure that your foil is cut to about the same size as that hot foil plate. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to put this, to back up a second. Once your green light is ready, then you're going to want to press your timer button, and then that would actually heat up your plate if you didn't have it on the platform prior to. So when your platform ready button is on, you would put your hot foil plate on, press the timer, and then that would sufficiently heat up your plate. But because I've already had it on there, I know this is really good and hot, but I'll just wait for the timer button to finish flashing. And this is the plate will be quite hot, so don't touch it with your fingers. We have special tools to remove it and to be able to shift it around on the platform. So it takes about 30 seconds for the timer to quit flashing, and when it goes solid, that you know that it's ready. You always want to have a piece of cardstock or whatever substrate you're going to be foiling on, and I'll talk about the different substrates that you can use. So we just have some pre-cut here. And while your plates are heating up, that's when you can take the time to cut more foil, have more cardstock ready. So this is my first tip to you, is you could go ahead and put your foil down and your paper, and then the plates that go on top, which I'll show you in a minute, But what I like to do is I actually like to undock the platform first, and that way you're going to minimize the amount of shifting that could happen with your foil and your paper. And it's not going to, you know, you're not going to lose a lot of heat. And I'm just going to lay that over top, and then I'm going to put my paper over top. So again, shiny side, they're pretty side down facing the plate. And then I'm going to move it over, and I'm not sure if we're going to be in the camera angle, but then we're going to move it over to our die cutting machine, and this is where we're going to add pressure, and it comes with the plates. So we're going to put the plates on top of the paper and the foil, and then we're just going to run it through our die cutting machine. And I'm using the Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine here, and it runs through very nicely. And I usually run it back and forth. And with this plate, because I've used it several times, I know what it's like, and it doesn't need more than one pass there and back. And then I take it back out, and then I'm going to dock it again right away so that it continues to heat that plate. You take this off, and the paper's kind of just stuck to my plate here. And I'm going to remove it. And then this is the wonderfully exciting part. We're going to reveal the foiling.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Bit of warped piece of paper here, but otherwise, can you see that? It is stunning. And that's pretty much perfect. Sometimes what you can get is overfoiling, where there might be an extra piece of foil somewhere that the plate actually doesn't have a design. It's very easy to remove. You can just take a stiff brush or even a little sand eraser, sometimes even your finger, and just rub over those areas, and they generally wipe off very, very easily. So that's pretty perfect.
Which plate are you using?
Yes, sorry, this is the Pink Fresh Peony Print plate, and it does come with a coordinating stencil. And so you can see that the platform ready button is already green. So that means that the platform base is sufficiently hot, and if I went and pressed the timer, it would continue to heat that plate up. So maybe I'll do another one just to show the basics of how to cut your foil. And yeah.
Can you suggest, with the Pink Fresh, when it comes with a stencil, do you suggest doing stenciling then foiling, or?
I personally like to foil first and then stencil, because it's easier to line up the stencil when you have the outlines of the image already. So because this is a cover plate, I know is about 5.5 inches long. And you can see on this image, I didn't really have a lot of excess on either side. You can see where the image ends and the foil, a little bit of extra foil. So we have this tool. It's a Spellbinders quick trimmer. This is what it looks like. It comes with a self-healing mat, and then another plastic plate that actually has grooves cut right through, and then it's got some measurements, and it comes with 2 different blades. It comes with a foil cutting blade and a paper cutting blade. And that's what I'm going to use to cut my foil, because the foil, as you can see, is very, very light and airy, and it's a little tricky sometimes just cutting with regular scissors. So this is nice because it holds the foil in place. You can actually measure out how long of a piece you need. Excuse me. And so you always want to make sure that the Spellbinders label is facing up, because otherwise the grooves actually don't work. And then I put it down on my foil, and I just line up to the 5.5 mark on my self-healing mat, and I run the little blade down there, and it cuts super, super easily. So that's a nice little tool to have if you're going to get into hot foiling.
I'll just remind those of you who are watching, if you do have any questions, just put them in the comments, and I'll make sure that Laureen answers them for you.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not going too fast. So again, my timer light is solid. I know that this plate is sufficiently hot now to transfer. And again, I like to undock the platform before I put my foil and the paper on, because if that tends to shift, you could get some double foiling, which isn't the nicest result. The other tip that I'll give you is I like to tape my plates together. And again, it's just to keep this tape already kind of came apart, but I would use a stronger tape normally. And it just to keep these together. So again, there's just less shifting, moving parts to minimize the amount of double foiling that might happen. So you just I like to kind of hold it with both hands, put my thumbs against the base, and just gently undock it, because this is a fairly tight fit. And then I move it over to my die cutting platform, again, just so that nothing shifts in the process. I put my foil pretty side down facing the plate, and then I put my paper on top of that, and then I put my plates over top. And this is what adds the pressure to transfer that heat and foil into the paper.
And one of the keys is to crank fairly slowly.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't like to do this really quickly. It just gives a chance to really get that transfer happening consistently.
Nancy says that undocking before you create your sandwich is brilliant. It is. I'm learning things today too.
Well, I've watched many videos, so I'm hoping I can transfer as much knowledge as I can, so you don't have to go through the process of watching a million different videos too. But they're great videos to watch. There's lots out there online. So again, this is the peel reveal, and it's just
beautiful.
Yeah, just gorgeous. Okay, so now I saw a fun little tip the other day, and I'm actually going to try it for the first time live.
Ooh,
okay.
Ooh, daring.
I know, this is a little bit crazy for me. So this is our magnetic tool that comes with the machine, and this is quite a heavy plate, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of help to move it over. But you would normally be able to pick it up quite easily with the magnetic tool and then release it with this button. But like I said, this is quite a heavy plate, so it's a little bit trickier to do it, but don't touch the plate with your fingers because it's very hot.
Very hot.
So one of the tips that I saw was, if you're using, for example, not a full cover plate like we were just using, but something that is more precise, and you want it on a specific area of your cardstock, Jennifer McGuire, card making goddess,
of course,
had recommended this. So what I did was I took just a regular piece of cardstock. It could be scrap paper, it could be whatever you want, and then I die cut a template, just a rectangle that would normally be the size of my card front that I'd be working with, and I used the Spellbinders cutting dies. That comes in lots of different sizes. This is great for matting any projects that you have. There's 2 different sizes. So I took one and I cut out that inside of that cardstock. And then what you can do is place your hot foil plate exactly where you want that to show up on your project. So if I know I want that border to be along here, but sometimes it's hard to just put this down and then put the foil and know exactly where I'm placing the cardstock, because of course the foil covers the plate. So I thought this was a really brilliant trick, so we're going to give it a whirl. So again, you put your foil plate down.
That is extremely brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised it came from Jennifer McGuire.
Right? I know.
Oh yeah, this is where that tool comes in very handy.
So you can see that it's great. So I can use that to reposition this. And my template is just a little bit smaller than the length of this, but that's fine. I don't need it to be exact. And then I'm going to set my timer, because of course this hasn't been sitting on there that whole time. And this, if anybody's wondering what this hot foil plate is, it's Pink Fresh, and it's the Charming Floral Border. And it has a coordinating stencil as well as a coordinating die. So we'll give that some time, and in the meantime, I'm going to...
Does this one also have a stamp? I think there might be a stamp.
So again, I'm just going to, while my machine is heating up, I'm going to take the time to cut some foil. And this one, unfortunately, the width of it doesn't, the foil width doesn't cover the length of it, so I have to run it this way, so there'll be some extra, but then you can always use the excess foil to do some sentiments, or I'll show you some other things you can do with some of the foil in a bit.
So this is the Charming Floral Border Coordinating Stamp Set, so you can see you've got the stamp. And it does come with a bunch of sentiments on there as well. So Pink Fresh is one of those companies that does the stamps, stencils, hot foil plate, and die. And the die that she has there. Not only does it work for here, but of course will work for the stamp.
Yeah, this brush is brilliant with their collections. The other thing I'll mention to everybody is you do have to be careful with the foil. You can scratch it, and you do not want to scratch the back because that, like I said, that's the area that's actually going to transfer onto your cardstock. So you do want to be somewhat careful when you're handling it. And then I'm going to show you how you can actually use this negative image to transfer onto cardstock as well using a solid hot foil plate. So that's going to be coming up in a minute. So again, even when you're done using it as your first image, be careful how you handle it because we can use this again if this is still in good shape. So now my solid timer light is good, so that means this is ready to go. Again, I'm going to undock this. And it didn't shift, and I'm going to just move this over to my die cutting machine, and same process. It's always the same. You always want to put your foil pretty side down onto the hot foil plate, and then we know now where the edge of our die is
because of the black border you put on there.
Black border. So I'm just going to put that there. And then put my plates over top and run it through. And I probably should have trimmed off that excess foil, but we'll just go with it here. Let's see how this works. But I thought that was a really great, I'll show you another way that you can put your hot foil plates in a specific area of your substrate, whatever, if you're using cardstock or acetate, whatever it is that you might be using. And then we just bring it back over and again dock it so that it continues to heat that base. Okay, here's the big moment.
Beautiful.
And there it's now just along the edge how we had wanted it. So that's
brilliant.
A really, really great way of doing that. And then you can just keep that in your stash and reuse it next time you want to do that. So,
People are loving all of the tips.
Oh, good. And this plate that we were using before, it's completely fine. I can handle that, no problem. So it cools off very quickly. And then I'm just picking it up and then use that little button to release it and it can cool off there. Okay. Any questions so far?
Nope, no questions. But yeah, I'll remind everyone, if you do have a question that you'd like Laureen to answer, put it in the comments and I'll make sure she will answer that for you.
Okay. I am now going to switch over to, I've been dying to try this Plaid tidings background. This is from Spellbinders. Julia was showing this a little while ago. This is a new release and it is stunning. So I would like...
I would just like to point out that Julia screwed up and did not put the pretty side down.
And that's totally okay. I've got lots of that at home too, and it doesn't affect any future foiling. It does not matter whatsoever, so it's all good. Again, I'm going to get my foil ready. And this is a cover one as well, so I know that I need to have it about 5.5 inches long, and again, because this self-healing mat has measurements on it, makes it very easy to do.
These rolls of foil, they look small, but you really do get a lot of use out of them because we've done tons of demos with these rolls, and it is amazing how many cards we've made with them.
Yeah. So again, you want to make sure that the Spellbinders words are facing up in order to be able to use this mat or the cutting surface here. And again, I hardly put any pressure, and it just cuts very easy because it is such a thin little foil. Okay, so my timer button's ready. I'm going to give it actually just a little bit of extra time. It is a larger surface area, so I do like to give it time. The keys to getting good images that are foiled is to make sure that your plates are hot enough and that you have the right pressure. So if you're finding that you're not getting great results, you should look at how long you're heating up your plates, give it extra time, or if you're getting over foiling or under foiling, it could be because of the pressure. And so you'll see in our sandwich here, I've actually put a piece of just cardstock in here just to act as an extra shim so that you get good pressure. So if you're finding that your image isn't foiling all the way, you're getting skips or something like that, check your pressure. Sometimes the hot foiling process can be a little bit frustrating when you're first starting out, but there's tips and tricks along the way to kind of get those good images, and it's usually related to heat and pressure. So, pardon me.
So Rosario, I'm just going to answer Rosario's question. She's asking if we can use this in the switch machine. I have personally asked my rep at Spellbinders this question, and the Spellbinders team is saying that they do not recommend using the Glimmer machine through the Platinum. Now, I know people who have and have had no issues. So I just tell people, if you do want to use it in your switch machine, that you just use an abundance of caution and be very careful on your plating. But Spellbinders has said they do not recommend. They recommend using it on a manual crank and not an electronic machine.
I unfortunately don't have an electronic machine in my collection to even try, so.
And I will point out, Laureen is using the Platinum, but this does also work perfectly well in the manual crank bake shop machines.
Okay. So we've just.
Oh, Cassandra says she has the switch and it works fantastic. So again, it's just personal choice.
Okay, so this was using the Plaid tidings.
Oh my goodness.
Might have to come home with me. That's stunning.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to step things up just a notch and show how we can start using these, call it the negative image, for other projects. So again, I'm going to take this plate off. It's probably going to be pretty heavy, so I might have to give it a little assistance here.
Sometimes I'll undock it and
Oh yeah.
flip it.
Okay. So Spellbinders has come out with these solid shaped plates. This one is a square plate. They have circles, ovals, and rectangles as well. And
And then Pink Fresh has the large.
yes, so
solid.
There's also the large solid plate. So I'm going to use both of those, the solid large rectangle plate, and then this smaller shaped plate. And I'll show you a few neat things there. And what I'm going to show you is, let's bring these over. So again, I had used the peony cover plate, sorry, this one here, and I used black hot foil on a.
Can hold it. So
just to do
black,
a background.
and
Lovely.
we're out of the black right now, but I have reordered it, and it is stunning.
And then what I did was I used the equivalent of this, but it's a circle. I just don't have it with me right now, sorry. But there's a circle one. And I used the negative image to just create a focal point on a card. And I'm sorry, I haven't had time to actually convert these to cards yet. But you can just see, so I've used a negative image on the circle hot foil plate to create that. And then, so that you think the foil will then have a circle that all of the rest of the foil will have transferred to, and then I use that piece again to create this. So it's like a spotlight, and you could put sentiment in there, you could add some extra, a butterfly or something like that on top. So it's absolutely brilliant how you can keep using this, so there's absolutely no wastage. So I'm going to show you how we do that.
That's what I love. No waste.
So I'm going to put that square solid plate on top and set my timer. And again, because this is a solid surface, I'm going to give it actually 2 sessions of the timer just to make sure it's good and hot. And I'm going to get and I don't have to get foil ready because we're actually going to I'm going to try using this one. We're going to use this foil already. And as I mentioned before, you have to make sure that this is good quality and doesn't have a lot of scratches or anything in it. This looks pretty good, because if this was scratched up where the foil is still sitting there, it won't transfer well. So you just have to make sure that you're using a good sample to begin with.
Now, I saw an interesting one that somebody did, and they actually took a piece of the foil and scrunched it up. So it actually had creases in it.
Yeah.
And then they used this, so when when this printed out, it actually looked like marble. But then they took another good piece, and wherever the scratches were, they filled it in with another color of gold. So it actually gave this almost like a marble tile look.
Okay, you're probably wondering, what are you doing? I'm just now taking this off. What I'm going to show you is a hinge system to make sure that this is in the spot that I want it in. So we talked about using a template in order to set your hot foil plate down and put your paper and make sure it's in the right spot. I'm also going to show you how you can use a paper template. I just need this to cool down for a quick second here, and then I'll be able to do the hinge system.
The hinge set. Watch this, because the hinge system is extremely useful.
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have put that on there, but it does cool off relatively quickly.
Too bad it's not winter.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like 30 degrees in Calgary today again. Just while we're waiting for things to heat up, this is an example of taking that background, the peony background, and it has a coordinating stencil. It's just a two-piece stencil, but I used two different shades of Distress Oxide inks in order to blend that in there, and then just created a card. So again, really beautiful. You don't have to do much to it because there's so much interest in the background already. So that was very simple to do.
Gina Campbell would like to know if you're going to show the double foiling with the plaid background.
I could possibly do that.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that Julia did.
Yeah.
The double foiling. Yeah, we can give that a whirl too.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah. Okay, so this plate is now cool enough to handle. So now this is a reverse sandwich. So if we think of it how we would normally put it on the platform, we would put the plate facing up, we'd put our foil pretty side kissing the plate, and then we would put our paper down. So now we're just going to reverse it. So this is my paper. I'm going to put my die facing down, and then I'm just going to kind of bias it a little bit towards the top. I'm going to take a piece of pixie tape. I love this tape. This is
It's thermal web.
Thermal web.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a pixie tape. It's tack, but it's a low tack, and it does not rip your paper. And I'm just going to tape my my hot foil plate to my piece of paper. That helps it from moving anywhere.
So Alia has a question. She wants to know if the solid plate is different on each side. Does it matter which side you use? And yes, it does.
Yeah.
It is beveled.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see that. There is a little beveling there. So you definitely want this side down.
And then on the other side, you can see it has, yes.
Etching in there.
Yeah.
So
Yes, you can only use it on the one side.
good question. Okay, so now I'm going to, can you see it if I have
Yes,
it on here? Okay,
yep.
So I'm just going to flip that up, and I'm going to expose the tape a little bit because I'm going to put my, okay, now again, we want the,
This is where my brain stops working.
yeah, and I'm actually going to, before I do that, I'm just going to trim off this top edge of the foil that was excess, just so I don't have that solid band of foil. And that's why this little tool is so nice, because I can do this very easily.
The quick trimmer is extremely useful when trying to cut your foil.
Yeah. Okay, so I just took this piece just had like the excess foil, so there was a little bit of the pattern on there, but mostly it was just solid, so I don't want that transferring. Okay, so now I'm going to take my foil, and again, you want the pretty side touching the hot foil plate.
For those of us who started foiling with the deco foil and the laminator, it's the opposite, which is why my brain can't remember this.
And you could tape this to here. I'm not going to. I'm just going to lay this down.
Oh, just wait, hold it up one more time. So explain the sandwich again.
Okay, so I have taken a piece of the tape, pixie tape, and I taped my hot foil plate in the position on my cardstock that I wanted it. Then I lifted it up, and I exposed a little bit of the tape, and I've tucked my foil underneath there so that I know that all of my hot foil plate is going to touch that foil. And if you don't have the hot foil plate, it's not going to transfer that foil in any other areas. Okay?
Yeah, like the rest of it around will not transfer, only where the hot foil plate is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then I'm just going to gently place this on the platform, and I'm going to, because the timer light is already solid, but I want this to heat up a lot, I'm actually going to turn it off real quick and turn it back on, and it's going to look like it's resetting itself, but I know the base is really hot, and it's going to continue to heat, and it'll turn this, or it'll get the platform ready button relatively quickly because it's already been heated.
So it does, you do have to be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't something that you can just whip out and expect to have lots of projects done in a really, really short amount of time, but it's absolutely worth the wait.
No, I don't know if Laureen does this, but when you get out your machine, do you work on several projects at once since you are, yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, when I first was playing with that PE cover plate, I made a schwack load because if I've already got it out, I might as well. So I'm going to take the time to talk about different substrates that you can use as well. So substrates being anything that you're foiling on. So what we've been using this morning so far is just a nice smooth hammer mill cardstock. I think this is probably maybe an 80 pound, it feels like. So really nice smooth cardstock. That's going to give you your absolute best results is when you use a really smooth surface. But I will say that I used a cardstock here that is textured and it still foiled beautifully. But you may not always get those kind of results when you're using a textured cardstock. But just try it, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, oh well. Like Julie said, these rules of foil, there's tons of foil in there, so you can sacrifice a little bit, right?
It would almost give it like a distressed look,
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
Absolutely. It could be just a different kind of look that might be great. This was using a rainbow foil.
Ooh. Oh, look at that, when you tip it in the light, gorgeous.
Yeah. And the other thing too is when you have foil, you can actually ink blend over top. Or you can ink blend first and then foil over top. It doesn't matter. And it acts as a resist. So if you ink blend after the fact, you can just gently take a buffing, like a cloth, and rub over top to get that sheen back onto your hot foiled area. It's not gonna rub off. It's very, very durable. Like none of this is gonna rub off. It's actually melted into the paper, so it's very, very durable. So again, I just did tons and tons of backgrounds. Like Julia said, you got it out, you might as well.
Mari is saying so many great tips. Will this video stay up so we can watch it again? Yes, it will. And I'm also thinking that I will download this and put it on our YouTube channel as well. But yes, it will stay on our Facebook page. But when I have it on YouTube, I will put the link here so it can be found easier on YouTube.
And so this green light has been solid for a while now. I sometimes will do that. I'll just leave it sitting there just to give it an extra minute. Like I said, because it's such a solid area, you want that plate to be as hot as possible to give you the best chance of good foiling results. So in this case, we did have to put our foil and paper over top because we had taped that hot foil plate. But
it's taped, so you don't really have to worry about the shifting.
Still somewhat careful because, but yeah, it's definitely a lot more solid. And then when I put my plates down, I actually just try and place it directly. I don't, let it sit on one end first and then drop it down. I just try and place it again, just to minimize the amount of movement that could happen. So again, just the same process, run it through. So you can see there's really no magic in this. It's just make sure you have your hot foil plate really nice and hot, put your foil pretty side down, and then your substrate. And this one I might actually run through a second time. Again, because it's such a solid surface area, we'll just give it another pass.
Mari Willard says this is the best tutorial she has seen yet.
Oh my goodness, thank you very much.
Laureen really is our foil queen. All foil questions go through Laureen.
Well, thank you.
Because the rest of us just kind of guess.
Okay, we're just gonna cross our fingers that this one works.
Oh no, it's gonna work.
This is a technique I've just kind of started doing recently. It's not something I've done a lot, so. And there you go. So we did get a little bit of overfoiling here, but you could either just cut that off. I think I probably didn't need that extra shim, but this, again, this is a learning, right? Where I go, oh, I got some overfoiling, I've got too much pressure in this case, so I would take the shim out of between my two plates there, and then you wouldn't get that.
So I'll just hold that up so you can see the overfoiling there. And like Laureen mentioned earlier, sand erasers will take that off. Sometimes you can rub it off with your finger, but I think this is going to need a sand eraser. But even
I would probably just trim that down and just make it into a square card, to be
absolutely
honest, and then put a sentiment on there, maybe a few gems, and you're good. Like, it just adds so much beautiful interest to your background already. You really don't have to do much else to it. You could use this on your scrapbook pages as well, just as, you know, as another element to your pages. Lots of different options.
And like she said, you can take, if you did want to ink blend over top of that, all of that foiling will act as a resist.
So do we want to do another one with the square plate, or just move, maybe just move on?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm just going to pick that up with the tape because it's not hot there. Now we've got this piece of foil with the square, because the foil has now transferred over to our other page, but we still have this extra. So now I'm going to take another cardstock, but I'm going to get my solid hot foil plate from Pink Fresh.
And you can definitely see that Julia has used this solid plate.
Mine also has the word grateful on it, and it doesn't matter. Everybody's plates look like this, and it does not matter. It will not affect your foiling.
Yeah.
Now this is a really big plate and super solid. You could actually use this to maim somebody.
Yeah,
So
it's yes.
Really heavy. So I'm going to give this probably at least another minute to heat up after the timer turns solid, because it does need a lot of time to properly and sufficiently heat up. So when I was talking about different substrates you can use, you can also foil on acetate. And it's actually probably one of my favorite things to do, to be honest. I get such terrific results. So this is a card that I did. Again, I used that circle, the Spellbinders circle solid plate, just to create just a very basic gold. I think I used the Aura colored foil there. But then I foiled using the Pink Fresh small butterflies. I foiled on acetate, as well as foiled on just a white cardstock. It has a coordinating stencil, so I inked up the white and then just put the acetate over top. Just really, really, really pretty.
Do you have to use a certain type of acetate?
Yes, sorry, it has to be heat safe. Yeah.
So Duralar
Yeah.
would work, plus I don't know if we still have it, but Spellbinders also has a heat resistant acetate.
Yeah, and it works really well. This is another, I've shown this card in the past, but this is another example of just using some heat safe acetate.
So foil on this butterfly, but she also foiled on the acetate and layered them. Such great results.
Yeah. And this one is using the negative image of that butterfly. So this is what we're using right now, is where we're taking the foil and then using a solid plate. Sorry, something just fell off the wall randomly. A solid plate to use that negative image, and I did that on acetate again. So it looks a little vintagey because it didn't transfer super perfectly, but it's really cool.
Gorgeous, gorgeous.
And the sentiment is also
And
beautiful.
I love how the die is detailed enough to cut out the antenna. That's absolutely spectacular.
Yeah. So I love me the butterflies. Everything's
Yeah,
special.
everyone's loving the acetate foiled samples, yes.
Yeah, I really, really love that. Okay, so this is solid. I'm gonna give it just another minute or so to really, really heat up. And just get our cardstock ready. Okay, we're gonna give that a whirl. See if that's hot enough. And again, don't be afraid to play, and don't be afraid of less than optimal results. That's just part of the learning process. Okay, so this is our solid hot foil plate. We're gonna put our foil and then our...
Sorry, I wasn't.
Okay, sorry.
Turn that over.
Foil, and then our cardstock. So exactly the same as we would normally do. It's just the solid hot foil plate is in lieu of a decorative foil plate. And then put our sandwich on top. And then run it through. And I will run it through 2 times because this is, again, just such a big surface area. And one more time.
Gail is loving this demo.
Excellent. That's so great to hear. Thank you. Okay, then back over again, dock it so that it keeps that platform. Okay, moment of truth, everybody. Let's see.
We hold our breath.
Yes, I'm sorry, my tape that pulls the plates together. Yeah, so don't run your tape out quite as far. Oops, and there we go.
There we go. And this is what there is left.
Yeah.
Nothing, hardly anything.
So, not quite perfect, but again, just you play with it, but you can get the idea of using one piece of foil and you get 3 different projects basically out of it. I just think that's brilliant. And I would trim this down anyways, and yeah, then you could, like I said, put some butterflies on there or sentiments or whatever, and that's one of your projects. Okay, so that's using the hot foil plate. So I could use, you know, this leftover piece and put a piece of cardstock, and you would end up with, was using like a pewter color, but that was using a similar just piece of, after I'd used the cover plate, the peony cover plate, I used the solid hot foil plate and then got that. So really, really versatile. So if you're going to get into hot foiling, I would 1000% recommend getting the solid hot foil plate because it extends the use of your, you're not wasting any A foil and you just get some really interesting results. Again, this is so heavy. I'm just going to move this off of here. Plonk. Okay.
Did we get hot?
Yeah, these get really, really hot.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the other things that we get asked is, can you use regular dyes to hot foil? And the answer is yes, you can. So I had done a sample using the Floral Tiles cover plate from Pink Fresh. This is a really neat plate because it doesn't cut an outside edge, so you can use this on slimline cards, or you can any kind of cards if you, or sizes if you'd like. Sorry, thanks Julia. And I hot foiled this background plate, which I'll show you, to create this background. And hopefully the camera's gonna pick up the shine there.
So this background in here came from that die that she's holding there. So a cover plate die. Now this is a die, this is not a hot foil plate.
Yeah. So you can try any of your dyes. They may not always work because the difference between a die and a hot foil plate is the hot foil plate is obviously intended for hot foiling. So it's got a lot wider surface area of all the details on it, whereas a die is intended for cutting. So the edges are going to be a lot finer. So you're going to get just a finer result. But that's just a different look, and it's beautiful as well. So it's just, give it a try. Not all dyes will necessarily work depending on how raised the edges are, but just give it a whirl, see what happens. So again, I'm just gonna get some foil ready here.
So I'm just gonna hold this card up because this is that charming. Where did that one go?
Right here. And it was this one here.
Right. So this is that charming floral border, and you can see how she's done it on a piece of textured cardstock, and then use the die cut to die cut it out, and then layered it over that. I mean, there are so many layers of foil on here. It's crazy.
And the sentiment is I think it's the brushed sentiments from Pink Fresh. And again, you can use, this is now the negative, so I would foil that, and it comes with a coordinating die cut, and I would just cut out all of those, and now I've got a second set of sentiments. There's another, so you now have a second set of sentiments that I would put in my stash. And I like to hot foil a whole bunch of sentiments at one time and just keep them, and then when I'm making cards I can just pull them out and they're already done. It's fantastic.
There we go. I put a piece of white behind it. So there you go. Yeah. Oh, Terry says that card is incredible. You are absolutely right, Terry. It is absolutely stunning. Absolutely gorgeous.
I mean, I always say you get results from a hot foiling machine that you can't accomplish any other way. Even when you use like a foil transfer, using a duo gel or whatever, it's not melted into the cardstock, it's raised, which is beautiful too. It's just a different look. This is a look you cannot accomplish with any other technique.
I mean, it's right on the paper. It actually feels like this was professionally printed.
Yeah.
Like, it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's so lovely. And the options are endless because you can actually foil. Where is our? Just gonna grab one of these other samples here. Sorry, I can't find it right. Oh, anyways. So this is sufficiently heated. It's been on there for a while. Again, same process. It doesn't matter that it's a die versus a hot foil plate. It's always the same process. You're just heating up a piece of metal, and then you're going to use foil and paper or whatever substrate you're using to transfer and melt that foil into the substrate.
Sherry would like to know if we'll be listing these products used in the demo. Once we're done, what I will do is I will have Laureen put in the comments field, or maybe we will edit the top of this one, and I'll have her list all of the products that she used.
Sure. Okay, and then just doing the same process. It doesn't ever change. So that's why it's not really a secret. Just follow the same process and you'll get great results too.
And a lot of times it's just repeating the process so that it becomes old habit.
Yeah.
And
I know when I first got my machine, I was scared to open the box. I'm like, oh. But please don't be nervous. It's really very straightforward. If you just keep the basic principles in mind, heat your plates hot enough, foil the right side down.
Yeah.
But it happens to all of us where, okay.
And the reveal. Oh my goodness, look at that. The fine detail, like on that die, these little holes are meant to actually pierce the paper. But look at what they do when you foil. I mean, the detail's stunning.
And then you can use this piece of foil, again, with the solid hot foil plate or one of the shaped plates from Spellbinders to create, these other looks again, right? So this is not going to be wasted. You can absolutely use that again. So that's using a regular die to hot foil.
Sherry has a question. Any tips on mass producing cards with foiling?
Have patience.
Yeah, it would. Yes, I think patience is one of your things. This isn't like using a stamp platform where it's in and out and in and out because you are waiting.
But what I would say is if you have an evening or take it out on your deck right now where it's so nice and just hot foil a whole bunch of backgrounds, hot foil a whole bunch of sentiments, and maybe you don't have time to put it all together in that moment, but at least have them in your stash, and then when you go to put together cards, it's super easy. You just go and pull all of the pieces together, and especially when you're using something like this where it's so simple to just put a sentiment, maybe again I always use butterflies, but another flower or something over top, and all of a sudden your card is done. Like, this already provides so much visual interest. You don't need a lot of other components or elements to your cards. So yeah, I would just say, to the extent if you have some time to hot foil a bunch of backgrounds, some sentiments, some flowers, butterflies, whatever it is, have them in your stash, and then they're ready to go when you want to mass produce. It's probably the easiest way.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go over here, see if there's anything else I wanted to, you can also hot foil on vellum and on chipboard. If you did chipboard, you wouldn't need both plates because chipboard, of course, is thicker than cardstock. I personally haven't yet to try it. I need to do that, but I haven't tried that yet. And yeah, Julia did a beautiful...
This is foiling over foil.
Yeah.
So this is a solid plate, this Arches one, which we haven't received yet, but this was actually a solid arch plate with the matte gold. And then we took another hot foil plate and foiled over the foiling. So don't be afraid of doing that as well.
Yeah. The other thing that you can do with your hot foil plate, similar to using dyes if you've never done that, is use it to create impressions. So I'm not sure if that's going to show up really well or not. But, and that's when you use the rubber mat that comes with your die cutting machine generally, or you can purchase them separately. And there's videos on how you can do dry embossing as well. I didn't bring all of that with me today because I just wanted to focus on the hot foiling part. But
it's a letterpress technique. If you see it, if you see the word letterpress, that is what this is. So it's that peony one. Where did that plate go?
Oh, we've got so much stuff on
It's so much. Oh,
sorry, folks. Yeah, here it is.
yeah. So that is using this hot foil plate and doing the impression into the paper.
And what you can do too is you can actually ink up, so take an ink pad and just ink up the top surface of that and then run it through, and then you get a colored impression as well.
And now that is stunning.
So lots that you can do there. This one I was just monkeying around in and took the circle solid plate, again, the Spellbinders but in a circle, and took my negative image and just put it over the circle in various parts of it, and just kind of get this spotlight effect.
Beautiful.
Too. So that's a really fun way of
Beautiful, beautiful. This reminds me of another technique I saw where they actually did use the circle solid, but they went over it with different colors of hot foil. So it was like pinks and blues and greens, and it was just absolutely stunning.
Now for Gina, doing the double foiling, so I believe what you're referring to, Gina, is the card that Julia did using this plaid plate and then just shifting, and so that you end up getting extra images on the project. So Julia's just grabbing that.
So that was this one here. So this is the first one that she did right here using the plaid tidings. And then this is one I did in a Spellbinders class, and this was using the plaid tidings 2 times with 2 different colors of foil. So I probably practiced this one, I think about 3 or 4 times, just to kind of understand how you would line it up. This was about as perfect as I got. My others weren't that great. I mean, they're still really gorgeous. I would still use them. But yeah, it does take a little bit of practice, but there is a tip that I'll share as we go along here, and I will...
Because I have actually not tried this yet, but definitely been inspired to try it, and especially if I buy that hot foil plate. Then, really. So I'm just going to cut down a different color of foil. I thought the red would look really gorgeous. While this is heating up.
So while it's heating up, I'll just kind of talk you through. So I'm assuming you're going to do it over this, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Let's do
Or don't have to. Okay.
Yeah.
So this was the original one. Now, again, you have to kind of know, and this is one of the tips that Spellbinders shared with us, is using a piece of paper larger than this so you can line it up. Now, if we look at this, just trying, my brain is trying to, there we go. Okay, so the thin lines, you see the thin lines here, correct? Double lines there. So what we're going to try and do is line up the single line through that. So it does take a little bit. Hinging might be easier. And this is why Spellbinders, I didn't listen to Spellbinders and I tried to do it. And then I eventually just went to the bigger sheet, because then it's a lot easier.
Should we do that with just a bigger sheet? Just to set ourselves
Yeah, we
up for
could.
success?
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
We'll just start with the big sheet. Why stress ourselves out?
Okay.
Besides, she wants to take this one home and make a card out of it. I just,
I'm like, don't touch that one.
yeah, stop it. Don't touch it.
So we're just going to grab a bigger, I don't have any bigger cardstock here. I'm just going to cut another piece of foil while we're getting a bigger piece of cardstock. could be here for hours, folks. There's so many things we could do, but yeah, just getting to. And Heather's next. She's gonna jump on the hot foiling bandwagon, right, Heather?
And then Tammy is next.
I am pretty sure I won't be able to refrain, especially after this amazing demo, Laureen.
Thank you. It's fun. It's just so much fun. And like I said, the results.
The results are stunning.
Yeah, you just can't. And this is the.
Yeah.
Yep, perfect. Okay. And just to show you too, sometimes you don't need to have a whole hot foil background. I think I've showed this card in the past. This is using the 49 and Market washi tape. And the 4-inch washi tape. I know there was washi tape demos on Tuesday, which Nancy and Heather did an amazing job. Julie used the fabric washi tape on Monday night during her live. So this just is another example of using washi tape. I just created the background, and then I hot foiled using the hexagon hot foil plates by Pink Fresh, and there's a coordinating die cut. So I just added that just as a little bit of element of shine there. So I thought that was a easy way to incorporate some foiling. Pretty much any project I do now has some foiling in it.
And I can concur because she keeps bringing them in the store.
Okay, so Julia, what's the first step, do you think, here?
Okay, so we're just going to foil normal, just, yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to undock this again first, because this part is just regular.
So we're starting with a fresh sheet of paper, and all I did was I took an 8.5 by 11 80-pound sheet of the Hammer Mill Super Smooth and cut it in half along the long edge. So it is 5.5 by 8.5, that sheet of paper.
And I didn't quite cut the foil the full length of the hot foil plate, but that shouldn't matter.
No, because we're going to have to cut it down anyways, so. Oops. Here. Going over there. So she's putting it through our machine.
This isn't the most exciting footage. Just rolling through a die cutting machine, but. And you can tell sometimes as well, like when we were talking about using dyes to hot foil with, that's where you might actually end up needing to do extra shims, so adding an extra piece of cardstock, because this isn't the same kind of depth as a hot foil plate. So you may find that you can feel that there's just not the same kind of pressure going through the machine. So again, just trial and error and just see if you need to add an extra shim.
And every machine is different, and it depends on the age of your machine as well.
You bet. And the thickness of your cardstock and whatnot.
Okay, so here's the reveal.
Oh, it just doesn't get old. Like,
It just never does.
Oh, so good. Okay.
Okay, now how I found it out, is that still hot? No. So I tried to do it like this. Obviously not going to work. Julia was delusional in thinking that she could do that. So we're actually going to move this off. We're going to let it cool for a few minutes, and then what we'll do is we'll take the plate and line it up on here and create that hinge method that Laureen was talking about. So we just need to wait a few moments to let that cool, because it is a little too warm to touch. It does get quite warm. But yes, absolutely fantastic techniques. Yeah.
And so you can see this is a great piece to use for the negative image, because any of these pieces of foil, they aren't scratched up or anything. So this would foil using the solid plate or that square plate again. It would foil really, really beautifully. So,
and I would suggest doing that right away. Yes. Because we've tried saving pieces and then demoing later, and by the time we get to them, they're all scratched up.
Yeah.
So.
And what I can show you as well, while we're waiting for this thing to cool down, is if you take a piece of foil, so there's still a little bit left on here. It's actually not useless. So what you can do is take a piece of adhesive or even just tape runner. I'm just going to use tape runner for this purpose. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for showing this, because I don't know if people know that this foil also works as pressure transfer.
Yeah, so all I did was I just took a simple tape runner and put it on a piece of cardstock. And then I'm going to take my piece of foil and just burnish it. So just rub that, and it's going to transfer. Let's see if my finger works well enough. I think it should. And I'll show you an example of a card that I incorporated that technique with. So again, that's not wasted foil either, even these little tiny strips. So I'll keep all of this stuff. I've got a folder that I just keep them all in. Now if I can find that, it's
And see, that one is, it's still slightly warm, but it is now cool enough that you can touch it and not hurt yourself. So these do cool down very quickly.
yeah. So back to this card. These strips here, that's actually just using old, like extra strips of the Aurafoil, and I just used the 1/4 inch adhesive. I ran it along a piece of cardstock, and I took my foil, I burnished it on there, and I did just to give it a little bit more interest on the card. So lots of different ways you can use foil. Okay.
Okay, so with this one, oops, let me make sure our camera is good. Here we go. Okay, so the way I was taught, so if you see this, if you look at these where these double lines meet, and then you look at your hot foil plate where those double lines meet. So you've got those flat ends there. So if I take it onto my piece of paper that I've already foiled, I know that this end and that end meets. I want to now shift it so that these skinnier ends are now where these are. So that's it perfectly, and then I'm going to shift it. You could shift it even like here, right? You could shift it all the way. You're going to get a much smaller piece. So, but if you just shift it just where I'm putting this right in the middle of there. So if I'm shifting it down and going right there, and Laureen's probably in a better, but just making sure it's all lined up. And then she'll use the pixie tape. So again, this is one of those ones, if you wanted to mass produce it, it would probably take you a little bit of time because like I said, you need to let the plate cool down. Now you could go through and do a whole bunch of the one foil and just do like 5 or 10 or 12 or whatever. And then the second layer would take you a little bit of time, but the results, once you get it done, absolutely worth it. Okay, so before we put it back on the machine, we'll just have Laureen do her sandwich and then just explain the sandwich before we put it back on the machine.
Okay. This is super advanced, by the way. This is not for a beginner level.
And this one does take some practice.
Yeah, and like if this is my first exposure to this is great. So I just put the piece of tape here, I lifted up the hot foil plate. I'm not gonna do it again because I feel like it's in a good position and it's hard to get it right back in there. And then I tucked the foil underneath the hot foil plate and then, or where just on top of the image, and then put the hot foil plate back on. And then we're gonna just flip it this way.
Okay, now because we've taken that, because that's a large solid plate, we are going to let it go through 2 heating cycles because we do want it hot enough to do a very good impression. So, and that also was a suggestion from Spellbinders with these larger solid plates, letting them go through 2 heating cycles. Now, as you get to know your Glimmer machine, if you just keep pressing this green button and keep that machine on, you'll just know when your plate is hot. But I always do 2 heating cycles.
Yeah, I think I think it turns greens solid. So I don't know if I can press it again, but
no.
I just let it sit there for an extra good minute or more.
And if you do want to go through a cycle, you just undock it or you can shut it off. Undocking it resets it, or you can use the on-off button, either way.
And I probably in this case specifically recommend on-off so that again you don't have any chance of shifting.
Correct.
By undocking it and putting it back in there.
Oh, good, Carolyn. I'm glad you love your Glimmer machine. Yeah, when you start using it and seeing the results, it's pretty spectacular.
And there's lots of different colors of foils. We've got multi-packs with, you know, pinks and light blues and silvers and
The holidays ones I've just reordered.
Perfect.
Plus the sparkly, the rainbow.
Yeah.
It's really endless.
Yeah. I will say sometimes I have a little bit more trouble with the solid hot foil plate and using colored foil, like the lighter colored foils. I have a light pink and a light blue. I find sometimes those don't give me the best transfers, but it's still beautiful. It's just sometimes not super, super solid. But again, just set yourself up for success by having the plates as hot as you possibly can, and make sure you have the right pressure, and it's generally going to be quite good results. So, okay, I think that should be enough.
Yeah, we can go ahead and give it a shot. Now, one good thing to mention, because everything is hinged together, if she puts it through the machine and just doesn't take the tape off and doesn't get a good result, we could put it back on the machine, let it heat up again and put it through, because again, nothing would have shifted. So this is where we're going to ask all 28 of you to cross your fingers, say a prayer. Especially you, Gina Campbell, we're doing this for you.
This is for you, Gina.
Oh, your mom is watching.
Oh, hi, Mom.
Hi, Peggy.
I'm going to do 2 passes. Again, just, it probably isn't necessary, but, and you want to be careful when you do run it through your die cut machine. You know how it comes to the end? You don't want it to skip really violently, because that can shift things as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, when it kind of pops there.
Yeah. Okay. And again, when you dock it, don't jam it in there, because again, you just want to minimize the amount of movement that's happening.
Oh, Terry's got all of her fingers crossed. Okay, thanks, Terry.
Thank you. Give this a whirl.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. What do we have?
3 and a half. 3 3/4. Just bear with me. Cool. Very cool. Very, very cool.
There we go. Look at that. Oh, I love the red and the gold. And again, you could go ahead and shift this different ways and get totally different results, because I've done this probably 5 or 6 times. They're all very different, but all equally as gorgeous. But look at that. So that is oh, there where the light catches it. Look at that. Stunning.
Good.
Stunning.
And it would look, you know, a million times better once you get it trimmed down, because it's sometimes you notice that, oh, there's
Yeah,
a break here.
no.
But you trim that down, it's going to look absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I'll just trim it down to A2 and I'll take it. Yes. Again, this is one of the previous projects Julia had done with the double foiling, so really, really great results. And you can foil over paint. I have a sample here as well that I painted. You know, just quickly grab that.
So there's that one trimmed down. So I've taken off all that excess, and just look how absolutely stunning that is. I'm just going to tell Laureen now that I want this to be my Christmas card this year. So she'll give it back to me. No.
So again, just using different surfaces. So that was painted prior to putting the hot foil over top. So, and then the other thing, I know Cassandra Millward has been doing amazing classes using alcohol inks. So I just had used some alcohol ink behind some heat safe acetate and then foiled over top, and just again get a really neat look. So
Now, can you remind me, was this a die?
it was a die. Yeah.
Okay. So this word, the word friend, was a die. So originally the die would have cut out the word friend, but the blue that you see there is the cutting blades of the die, and look how gorgeous that foiled.
And that's just from my own stash. I can't remember who it is, so please don't ask.
Yeah, don't ask us where the friend came from. We don't know.
Yeah, that was an old one. So
Anything else to share? I feel like we've tapped your brain for everything.
I feel like that's all I know.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip this back up. I want to thank Laureen for doing this today. There we are. Lots of wonderful comments. Thank you to everyone. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And like I said, I'm going to get Laureen to sit down. She will list the products that she used. I mean, it's a lot, so it's going to be an extensive list. And then watch for this. I'm actually going to, I can't do it at the store because it takes up too much data, but I'm going to download this and put it on our YouTube channel. And when that's ready, I will share the link to that as well. So thank you, Laureen.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody. Have a really great day.